Steven Thacker has been part of our group for many years. 10?
10.
Yeah, probably 10. And is probably one of the best people in Australia in terms of benchmarking and S&OP and KPIs and so on. So I thought, rather than listen to me, have a break, listen to Steven.
You all need a break. You look like it.
There you go.
If you don't mind, I'd like to just pick up on something that Rob spoke about before the break, and that was your cost to serve exercise. This is a real practical example that I drew up on the butcher's paper here from a client that we did a workshop with all day on Monday. But this is 100% typical of what we see. So what I've drawn on the board there are two graphs that we produced for them, one for customers and one for products. And this is a cumulative distribution curve. So effectively what we're doing is we're taking the most profitable customer, the highest margin customer, adding it to the second most, to the third most, all the way through to 1,220 customers. And their gross margin achieved 100% of their annual figure at how many customers? What's your guess? 20%, Rob says. He doesn't get to answer these questions. He should know the answers. Have you got a feel? Customers wasn't too bad. Customers was 721. So between 721 and 1,220, all of these customers in this band here were all at a negative margin. That's just gross margin. It's not net, it's just a gross margin. So it meant that what they actually achieved was 102.6% in total, and their last, 600 or 500 and something on customers were all negative margin. Some of you are shaking your head. Every business that we've ever been to and done this has a similar number. That range there, this was 2.6%, is usually somewhere between 100 and 105. So somewhere as much as 5% of the margin is eaten away by non-profitable customers. What about for products? They have roughly 1,400, it's 1,372, but 1,400 customers, did the same thing, most profitable product, all the way through to the least profitable. At what point did they hit 100% margin? You're not going to be right, so you can have a guess anyway. 700, so about a half. Anybody else? There was another number floating down here. 350, so you're a pessimist. or you know something, or you're a realist. That's what my wife says too. I'm just a realist. The answer here was 266. Wow. Every business we go to is the same. So this one was 104.9. They just scraped under our rule of thumb 5% margin, so 104.9%. So cost to serve uncovers that's hidden in every business that we've ever done this for. Yours will be the same, unless you've just done a good cost to serve exercise. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's real. And the stuff that Rob talks about is not pie in the sky, it's real. We just finished this one on Monday. So let's talk about benchmarking. What's benchmarking? So I'm not going to do all the talking, you're going to do half of it. What's benchmarking? Comparing against what, sorry? Ah, good. So how do you figure out what good is? Yes. Okay, very good. So the Gartner's Magic Quadrant will determine where different vendors fit in terms of service and provision. So that's what it is. Why have we got it on the agenda today? Why is it important? We've obviously added it because we think it is, but why do you think it's important? Okay, it's a bit of a giveaway, isn't it? We make it easy for you. Just look at the slide. The answer's almost always there. So a personal situation. So I race bikes, but I don't race in the peloton. I only race in the time trial. So for me, it's 20 kilometres. You've seen it on the Tour de France where one bike goes out every 60 seconds and it's just you against the clock, and it's just pain and agony and suffering for 36 minutes. It's just you against the clock. But when I first started, my aspiration was to be on the podium, in other words, first, second or third, nationally across the country, having only started 3 years ago. What do you think everybody said? You idiot. Those polite ones said you're dreaming. Most said you're an idiot. But that was my aspiration. So if that's my aspiration, to get on the podium, what's the first thing I have to know? Exactly. It doesn't matter whether it's Tom, Dick, Bruce or Harry. The first thing I have to know is how good do I have to be? And that's when it gets scary, because to be on the podium, I've got to be under 34 minutes to do 20 kilometres, which hurts. Trust me, it hurts. In a car, it's wonderful. On a bike, it hurts like hell. So with that in mind, just a couple of slides in to emphasise this point. Who's this? Roger Bannister, yes. Those of us with greyer hair remember Roger Bannister. What's Roger Bannister famous for? What about the 4-minute mile? He was the first man to run a mile, in the old parlance, in less than 4 minutes. What year was it? 70s? 1954. Okay, March 1954. What was so spectacular about that? Had there been lots of people trying to break the mile in 4 minutes? Oh yeah, they'd been trying since World War I. They've been trying. And at some point in time, lots of literature that I have says it'll never happen. So March 1954, Roger Bannister ran a mile in 3:59.4. He just scraped it home. I've been to the site where it was run, and nothing special about it. It's just a track. But he managed to do it on that day. Now that's significant, but why am I putting this on the board? Because what's fascinating about this story is the postscript. The postscript is, for arguably 1,954 years, people that, or certainly since World War I, people have been trying to break a 4-minute mile, and they hadn't done it until March 1954. Between March 1954, for the next 18 months, do you know that Roger Bannister's record was broken 11 times? What happened? How come everybody could do it all of a sudden? Thank you. Say that loudly. Because suddenly now, you know what a glass ceiling is? Yeah, yeah. Well, you've got one at home, have you? A glass ceiling is this artificial ceiling. We think we can't do something, but in actual fact, we can once you remove the glass. So suddenly, the whole world knew this is possible. And suddenly the paradigm changed. And so 11 runners broke his record in the next 18 months, which is just phenomenal. So the thing about, the reason for this example is the thing about benchmarking is sometimes the only way to achieve something exceptional, to raise the bar, is to break a glass ceiling. But if you know that somebody else has done it, doesn't that give us confidence? See, I know that there's a guy, and I can name him, and in fact, I've got his picture at home, and I throw darts at it, not really, that rides my 20 kilometres in 34 minutes. I can't do that yet, but I know he can because it's in the records books. In fact, I've seen him do it, so I know he can do it. So the glass ceiling is removed. So that's an important part of benchmarking. There's 3 of those. Who's this guy? What's Usain Bolt famous for? Okay, it's all on the slide, isn't it? He still holds the world record. Now, we don't care who it is. We don't care whether it's Usain Bolt or if Usafa Powell comes back and beats him or some young buck comes up. If you want to be the fastest man in the world over 100 metres, the first thing you've got to know is, I've got to beat 3:59. If you want your supply chain to be the best, if that's your aspiration, or to get on the podium, as is my aim, what do you have to know? How good are they? What kind of service levels do they operate to, and at what cost structure? And we'll come back to some more details in relation to that. I said there were 3. Does anybody know who that is? Thank you. Well done. Not many people get it. So back in the 50s, again, there was a whole series of movies made about Tarzan, and this guy called Johnny Weissmuller was Tarzan. In fact, the yell, I'm not going to try it. Have you exit the room at a very fast pace. So, that yell is now still used in the movies today. It was so good. But before Johnny Weissmuller was an actor, he was an Olympic swimmer. And I love sports, and I'm fascinated by what makes people, individual and teams, the best and better. So, Tom Brady just won another ring yesterday, and I wonder what makes him better than everybody else at an elite level. He's better than the best, if you know what I mean. So I'm fascinated by that. In my studies of this, my thought and my suggestion to you is that Johnny Weissmuller was the best swimmer that ever lived. Why do I say that? Well, he won 4 gold medals. Is that impressive? In swimming at the Olympics? Why isn't that impressive? Michael Phelps, how many? A lot more than 4. So why am I saying this? I say this for these reasons. Number one, he won in the 1920 Olympics. He won in the 24, came back 24 Olympics, where he won 4 medals. He won an extra medal because the Olympics weren't quite as well organised in those days. And the American water polo team had one of their players who was ill on the day of the gold medal playoff. And they said, Johnny, you know how to swim. Jump in the pool. So he won a gold medal in water polo for his very first and last time in the pool. But I say that because Johnny Weissmuller never came second or third or fourth or fifth. He was never beaten in the pool. Nobody swam in his era. Nobody swam faster than he did. At one stage, he held 17 world records simultaneously in everything from 100 metres to 1,500 metres. Nobody could swim faster at any distance in his era. He was exceptional. At the last Olympics, do you know who was swimming faster than Johnny Weissmuller? Everybody that competed, thank you, good call. Everybody that competed was swimming faster than his times. So why is that there? What's the message? Sorry? You have to. Why? Just because you're good yesterday doesn't mean that you're going to be good today or tomorrow. So old benchmarks are old benchmarks and they're kind of useless. You've got to be striving to raise the bar all the time. So that's all useful outside of supply chain. That's Johnny Weissmuller. Oh, there he is as a young swimmer. So let's think about then, if we're talking, let's apply that to supply chains. If you want to be the best in terms of service, right? Forget about the cost for just a moment. If you want to be the best in your supply chain from a service perspective, and I were to say to you, but you've only got one KPI that you're allowed to use. What's it going to be? What would you suggest? Lots of whispering going on. I'm not sure about this. Give me a guess. You won't be right, so you might as well. Sorry? DIFI. It's a common one, isn't it? And it's useful. I don't think it's the perfect or the ultimate measure. Is there any better? So that's a good productivity measure, isn't it? I'm not sure it transposes wonderfully to an ultimate customer experience metric. So if you're a customer, so you've gone online last night, so your customers are customers, right? And you're a customer, so you behave like they do, they behave like you do. If you went online last night and ordered 10 books from Amazon, as a consumer, what are you expecting? I want 10 books. I want more than that. I don't want 11 books, but I want them when you said they were going to be here. What else do I want? I'm not unreasonable. What else do I want? I want the right 10 books. I don't want 10 random books. Yes? What else? I want them packaged and undamaged is what I'm looking for, right? Yeah, I want it delivered on time. Sorry, somebody said price? Yeah, so when I check my credit card bill, I've been charged the right amount. So what do I want, in essence? What do you all want? We just want a perfect order. Or flip it around the other way, the negative aspect of that is I just want an error-free order. Isn't that all you want? Yes? That's what your customers want. DIFOT measures 2 out of what I think are 6 measures of a perfect order, or 6 things that have to happen in a supply chain to deliver a perfect order. So I won't cover it again. Right, wonderful. So that's the ultimate KPI. So if you then start to measure your performance in against others, this is a typical and standard approach. So this is the traffic light approach. So red, amber, and green. So whether you're benchmarking supply chain or anything else, this is the sort of international protocols that we use. So statistically, so you may need to take a note of this. Statistically, the green does not mean that you're the best of the best. So it doesn't mean you're Johnny Weissmuller. It means you qualified for the Olympics. So statistically, it means your performance is in the top 20%, which is why the sign is more than. So delivery in full by line for this particular organization, this is real data, company X was compared against these companies, and to be in the top 20%, they had to be doing better than 97% delivery in full, or a DIFOT better than 94. That's to get into that elite group. That's to get into what we call, when we say best in class, it means the top 20%. It doesn't mean the best of the best. The best of the best could be 99.99, right? Or they could be 100, but to get into that group. Now, the next group is yellow in the traffic lights. That's the next 30%. So if you're in the red group, where are you? Come on, it's easy. In trouble. we call it disadvantage. It's our tag. But you're at a competitive disadvantage because you're in the bottom half, right? Get the maths? Here's 20, here's 30. You're in the bottom half. Your customers know that you're not performing as well as everybody else. So this is typical benchmarking data. This is called level 1 metric. So have you heard about SCORE, the SCORE methodology, SCOR, something to look up later. So all of the work that we do uses the international definitions, which SCORE created some years ago, and we use their calibration system. So this is level 1 metrics. Those 3 measures are all about service. Those 3 measures are all about cost. The cost is a percentage of sales, the cash-to-cash cycle time, and how quickly you turn your inventory. So if this organization has that as their results, how do you interpret that? What do you understand? Lots of opportunity. There's a good positive spin on it. Where would their focus be? See, the beauty of benchmarking different KPIs is you know which ones you're doing well at, so you don't waste time on those. You focus on the ones where you've got a gap. So where's their biggest gap? DIFOT is driven by these 2, right? DIFOT's in full times on time. So where are they underperforming? On time. So they've got the product, but it's just not being delivered on time. So it's narrowed the focus straight away. That's where you'd focus your effort. From a cost point of view, about midpoint, right? About average. Nothing exciting, about midpoint. Cash to cash, look at this. So what's cash to cash affected by? So it's accounts receivable, it's accounts payable, and most importantly, it's inventory. So I'll bet you that they would have an opportunity here because they're carrying too much inventory. What else suggests that they're carrying too much inventory? Stock turns are really poor. So it's just reinforcing that message. So that organization, compared to the aggregate of all of those, understands where they need to improve. So with benchmarking, it's critical to measure the things that matter most. From a service point of view, we suggest not that there's one metric, but there is one better than the rest, and it's the perfect order, which Rob tells me you heard about this morning. From a cost point of view, is there an ultimate cost metric that's useful? That was very definitive. We're waiting desperately for you to tell us. Our suggestion is that at a high level, it's this one here. Cost as a percentage of sales. Because if you can reduce your cost by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% in the supply chain as a percentage of sales, where does that go? It's the bottom line. It's easy transposition. So the ultimate measure, there's lots of sub-measures, so don't misinterpret this as there's only one, but there's some key ones that are worthwhile having a look at.